Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into the truly heartbreaking and real mythological origins of Medusa. I mean, for centuries, just hearing her name has given people shivers, right? We all know the image, a monster with venomous snakes for hair and a terrifying gaze that literally turns people to stone. But behind those eyes of pure dread is a much, much deeper story. So today, we're going to transform her from this simple, two-dimensional movie monster into a deeply complex, tragic figure. We'll be looking at the raw, untold story of how a young girl's beauty and a profound systemic injustice broke her spirit and changed a legend forever. Okay, let's just get right into it by breaking down the stark contrast between the terrifying myth you probably think you know and the tragic truth of who she really was. You likely picture the Gorgon, the ultimate symbol of ancient, unstoppable fear, born only to kill. But the truth? It's entirely different. Before the scales and before the snake hair, Medusa was a woman. She was a devoted, totally innocent human priestess who was horribly wronged by the very gods she worshipped. Section 1. The Maiden's Devotion. To understand her tragedy, we absolutely have to first look at her human life in the bright city of Athens. The crucial point here is that she wasn't just a casual follower. She was utterly committed to her chosen path of purity. She was this shining, innocent example of faith. According to the old stories, she had hair like soft black silk that shone with an almost magical glow, and yet she was incredibly humble. From a very early age, she gave her entire life to serving Pallas Athena, the fierce goddess of wisdom and crafts. Medusa entered Athena's grand temple when she was young, taking strict vows of chastity. Her days were spent doing things like lighting fresh incense, polishing bronze offerings, and studying ancient texts. She was an unspoiled, devoted maiden who felt completely, 100% safe within the consecrated walls of her sanctuary. Section 2. The Divine Violation. Sadly, this peaceful sanctuary was about to be horribly broken. That peace Medusa knew? It was really just a delicate veil, and it was violently torn apart by Poseidon, the mighty god of the seas. See, Poseidon had been watching Medusa from afar, and his interest grew into this unchecked, powerful hunger. But, and this is key, this wasn't just physical desire. It was a calculated defilement. Poseidon didn't just assault Medusa. He committed a profound sacrilege to arrogantly taunt his rival Athena, right inside her own holy sanctuary. He forced his way into the temple, and in an instant, Medusa's innocence, her faith, and her safety were brutally stripped away in a devastating act of defilement. So, this brings up a deeply uncomfortable question that's going to pivot our entire understanding of this story. When news of this terrible event finally reached Mount Olympus, Athena was consumed by burning rage. But instead of punishing the all-powerful attacker, Poseidon, her wrath fell squarely on Medusa. Why on earth would Athena punish the innocent victim? Section 3. The Cruel Curse. Let's look at Athena's judgment. Instead of offering justice or protection, Athena delivered a cold, victim-blaming punishment to essentially preserve her own temple's reputation among the other Olympians. And this brilliantly, or rather tragically, illustrates the sheer, targeted cruelty of the curse. Medusa's most admired, beautiful features were literally twisted into weapons of isolation. That famous dark hair that supposedly rivaled the goddess herself, it thickened and hardened into a nest of slithering, venomous vipers. Her smooth skin cracked into reptilian scales, and her beautiful eyes, which used to be so full of devotion, became capable of the most horrifying power, turning absolutely anyone who looked directly into them into cold, lifeless stone. From that exact moment on, the priestess was gone. She was exiled to a desolate island at the literal edge of the world, forced into total, agonizing isolation. I mean, think about it. Simply looking at another living soul meant destroying them. Every petrified sailor or animal she walked past was a gruesome, everyday reminder of her curse. Now, she did have the company of her immortal Gorgon sisters, Steno and Euryale, but their monstrousness was natural. They were born that way. Medusa's was the result of a brutal violation. She became a living prison, burdened with a power that meant she could never, ever truly connect with anyone again. Which brings us to Section 4, the Hero's Quest. Let's see how a young hero named Perseus enters her tragic existence. While Medusa suffered in isolation, Perseus is tricked by a cruel king into hunting her down. And notice how the very gods who cursed her are the ones guiding her killer? Let's track this timeline. On day 1, Hermes gives Perseus winged sandals. And Athena, yes, the exact same goddess who ruined Medusa, hands him a highly polished bronze shield to use as a mirror. Moving to day 2, Perseus cleverly steals the single shared eye of the ancient Graeae to force them to reveal the location of Hades' Helm of Darkness. And finally, on day 3, completely invisible and guided only by the mirror's reflection, Perseus approaches the isolated, sleeping Medusa and swiftly severs her head. But, as you might guess, Medusa's story doesn't actually end with her death. Even severed from her body, her head remained this terrifying tool, used by Perseus to impart a bizarre, ironic form of justice across the ancient world. First, he uses her petrifying gaze to turn the weary titan Atlas into a permanent mountain range, basically granting him eternal rest. Second, he petrifies a devastating sea monster, Cetus, to save Princess Andromeda. And finally, he returns home, unveils the head to the cruel king Polydectes and his corrupt court, and instantly freezes their arrogant laughter to cold stone. So even in death, her curse became the ultimate weapon. Section 5. The modern symbol. Because her physical death was really just the beginning of her profound cultural evolution. Today, we can deconstruct her myth into 4 incredibly powerful modern interpretations that completely reshape how we view her legacy. We're going to look at her as a symbol of victimhood, an icon of female rage, a study in the power and reversal of the gaze, and finally, a figure that blurs the lines between human and monster. First up, Medusa is a potent symbol of profound victimhood. Reclaiming the narrative is huge here. For modern survivors of abuse, she represents the deep scars of trauma and the tragic failure of authority to protect the innocent. Remember, she wasn't born a monster, she was made one by divine wrath following a horrific assault. Today, lots of survivors reclaim her image. You'll even see people getting tattoos of her face. And it's not an embrace of evil, but a deeply resilient statement against victim blaming and systemic injustice. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it shifts her from a figure of fear into a defiant statement of resilience and survival. The idea is essentially, you can no longer harm me. My pain has become my armor. Her stony gaze basically becomes a symbolic shield. It's this powerful acknowledgement of a transformed self, taking back power over a narrative where she was once utterly, completely powerless. Building right on that resilience, we arrive at female rage and empowerment. Her monstrousness gets reframed here, not as a punishment, but as radical self-defense. Think about the boiling, primal fury she must have harbored, rage at Poseidon, rage at Athena. In this light, that terrifying snake hair, it's a crown of untamed primordial strength. Her curse acts as the ultimate impenetrable boundary, ensuring that absolutely no one could ever approach her with ill intent again without facing immediate, devastating consequences. And this brings us to the power of the gaze. Before the curse, her human beauty was objectified by Poseidon, right? Her body was seen merely as a prize to take. But her new gaze radically reverses this dynamic. She takes that oppressive, objectifying gaze that ruined her life and completely weaponizes it. Anyone who dares to look upon her with judgment, control, or malice is literally turned into an inert object, forever frozen in their wrongdoing. It's a total flip of the script. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. When trauma reshapes your very existence, who is the real monster? Is it the victim, burdened with a terrifying form and forced into isolation? Or is it the powerful figures, like Poseidon and Athena, whose arrogant, unjust actions create such a form in the first place? Medusa's tragic story really compels us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about appearances, trauma, and who the true monsters really are. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.